All right, we are recording.
Well, hi, Ryan. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for
You
having us.
want to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about what you do and where you work, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I'm currently working in landscape architecture at a company downtown in Denver called Ford Copeland Macht. They specialize in educational design along the lines of designing universities, designing certain buildings, as well as recently your school, Stargate. And a part of that makes my company a little bit more distinct than your typical landscape architecture firm is we're what you would call a multidisciplinary firm. So we have landscape architects, and interior designers. We even have a sustainability team here, which kind of guides all of our designs in house as compared to having three independent firms. So when we work on one building, we come at it from all different sides.
Cool. What's your favorite part about what you do?
Hmm. So I've been working for about 5 to 6 years in the profession. I've worked on a wide scale of projects from neighborhood development, community design, so designing neighborhoods, urban design, designing streets and plazas and parks where people inhabit and they go shopping and things like that. And those were typically set with a landscape architecture firm solely. So we would work out of office with architects and other people. So one thing I really like about the potential with this firm and this team is I get to I sit right next to an interior designer, I sit right next to an architect. And so our conversations are not from people who are from our common perspective. It's typically with people who have a very different perspective. They see the project in a different light, and that challenges me to think about the project in a different light and advance it in a different way. Um, in the same way, a person looking at the site for the first time would look at, well, I guess, in the same way that I look at a site and I see how people are walking through the site, connecting with the site, what makes the site comfortable for people outside of the building. The architects are looking at where's the building, what what are the walls, how large are the certain rooms, how many people are within the building, and how you accommodate that. And then the interior designers may look at what makes a certain room unique, how do you make restful or engaging places in those rooms. And the truth is, my perspective is describing all these different roles as a landscape architect. So I could be completely wrong about what an architect sees their role as, in the same way they may be completely different on what they think I do. A lot of the time, people think I actually plant shrubs in front of people's houses, and there's still some architects who believe that that's what I do still. So it's still a conversation. You can't get mad whenever somebody thinks they have a different perspective, but you have to learn to communicate. I think the one thing about a designer of all three disciplines needs to have is the ability to communicate. It's one of the most important skills you can have.
Cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So, the students have been asked to design this outdoor space. Um, and one of the big things right now, and you said your firm has a whole sustainability, I guess, department almost or aspect to it. Can you tell us a little bit about what sustainability means to your firm and how we can kind of incorporate some of those things or what we should be thinking about when we hear sustainable?
Yeah. Sustainability is a term that a lot of people use nowadays. People could say a green building is one thing. And, it's funny how often some people may even think that a green building is just a green building, literally painted green. So just because it's sustainable doesn't necessarily mean it composts everything that it has, or it has solar panels covering the entire building, or it has like a farm on site for people to use. That doesn't necessarily make something sustainable. One of the terms that we tend to use in the profession is resilience. And so, what can stand the test of time? What can endure? And what will almost work with the fabric of the existing community and the existing ecosystems that are already in place? Because whatever is already existing is probably the most sustainable thing. So, how do we work with those elements? Some of the pieces that we consider with that are the, as you would guess, the ecosystem. So, what is the climate? What's the water usage? So, in my profession, we have to work with plants. So, what we're not going to be having a tropical poolside garden here. We're going to be having something a little bit more arid, something that works with the native prairie. In regards to building materials, are you like you have to think of sustainability in construction. So, are you sourcing materials that are local, in which you would have to probably pay much less to ship from a local rock yard or ship from a nearby timber yard, versus are you getting something all the way from New York, which it requires carbon energy to transport across the nation so that you can build your bench or you can build certain elements. Another element of sustainability is that you would work with the natural ecosystem. We already mentioned that, but the local flora and fauna. So if they're in my job, I have to be very sensitive of what populations are already existing, not just people, but also of animals. Sometimes even cities are put very strict development on places that have endangered species. Like there was a barn owl that was living on an old site of mine, which from that point we had to set up certain parameters that we wouldn't inhibit their ecosystem or their living environment. Um, in regards to other things that would make a site resilient, you have to think about how people are going to engage the site. Um, it's not worth much of anything if people can't access the site. So part of that you would be able to say is it needs to be handicap accessible. It needs to be ADA accessible, which is the American Disabilities Association. And so that means everybody should be able to engage your site in a respectful manner as compared to necessarily limiting people from engaging the site. Another way you can do that is make sure that the site feels inviting or welcoming, because the more people feel that they want to engage the site, they want to even own the site, that they're proud of having the site, that they'll want to take care of it. In the same way that people take care of their yards, public spaces can and parks and plazas can be considered our own homes, which makes us want to participate in them and own them. It's almost as if what would it feel like to be proud of your school? And what would it take for you to actually have places that made you feel proud, that you wanted to tell other people about, that you had this great thing on your site?
Well, that's great. Gives us a lot to think about.
Hmm.
So we begin the students just got the challenge to design the building today. And so as they start to begin through that process of designing this unique space and trying to come up with creative ways to engage the user and ways to keep things low budget, sustainable, what kind of design process might you follow, or do you use? Is there something that we can kind of use to guide our thinking and keep us from, keep us thinking about all the different angles of our space?
Yeah. I'm actually going to pause it really quick, Nicole,
Okay.
just because my free recording limit
Oh
will be
no.
stopped in like